Hello, everyone. This is Daryl Andrews, Coach D, coming to you live from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, up in the area on business, and got a few customers I'll be visiting and having some conversations with, and then back to my space in Delaware for the Easter holiday. So we're looking forward to that, and I just want to take some time. A lot of times when we talk about this thing, and the last time we got together, I mentioned it, this whole thing of teamwork. One thing I shared that I stand by is that I think that teamwork is a word that's really not in play with most organizations. And what I mean by that is I broke down team building and I shared a little bit about how a team is kind of like a formed unit or entity that comes together for a specific purpose. That could be a sports, it could be an organization, it could be a school, whatever. And building is erecting something. And so when you look at a team, it's a group of individuals coming together to erect something. And so a team itself doesn't happen on its own, it has to be erected. Well, that's why we need to talk more about team building than teamwork, because you can't create teamwork if you first have not erected a team. And what I mean by that is built a team that you can now work on. For some of you, probably like, what in the world is this guy talking about? As I come here from my hotel here in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. And the reason why I'm saying this, I've been in my career thousands of locations worldwide, literally thousands. And virtually, if you add that, it could be a whole lot more. But what I realize is this, and I've said this before, and I will say it again. And I would love to hear your comments if you know what I'm talking about, because some of you out there have experienced it. So you know what I'm talking about. Most of the places I've been in, not all of them, but I shouldn't say most, a lot of the places I've been in have allowed their cultures to become toxic. And you may say, Coach, what do you mean by allow our culture to become toxic? Well, it's kind of like if you're a parent and you have a child and you see that that child is doing something that's detrimental to themselves, and you say nothing. You just say whatever, they'll figure it out, say nothing to them. And then a year to 2 years later, then they're kind of like, let's say, addicted to a drug. Well, you didn't say anything because you just didn't want to deal with it at the time. But now it's rolled over to the point now this young person may have something that could be detrimental to their future. But instead of dealing with it, you just let it go on. And this is how toxic relationships are merged as well. We allow things, we don't say anything, and we allow it. And then when it comes time to deal with it, then people aren't ready for it to be dealt with because it's been toxic for so long that the person has normalized this particular environment as toxic. So you now saying something to them, all right? This is not just for work, for team, it's for relationships too. Now seems abnormal because they're like, what are you talking about? This is just who we are. And that's the place where a lot of organizations rest today. This is who we are. So when you talk to the majority of their employees, what they'll say is, this is how we are around here. Or that's just how this leader is. Or this is just how this manager is. And so they've accepted mediocrity. All right. They basically said that this is okay. So I'm saying that because I'm going to give you some insights into how these toxic cultures are built. All right. One thing I want to say right up front, and this is for anyone that's leading people, this is so important because I see it all the time. When you're leading adults, treat them like adults. Like some people, when they're leading people, communicate to full grown adults like they're little children. Now, imagine if the shoes were on the other foot. How would you feel if someone was speaking to you that way? So, as a leader, I just want to say one of the immediate shifts that could take place is how we communicate with our employees. And I love it because I've seen a lot of leaders out here who are doing it the right way. They're in charge. They're the leader. Everybody know it, but they show respect and some compassion and some, some empathy. As Johnny Taylor says with Sherm, empathy, not sympathy, but empathy. All right, and with for the people, so the people have a sense of duty and loyalty to that leader that can, in many cases, change the outcomes of many organizational cultures because most of the people I talk to, all right, that seem to have a problem with somebody within that workspace that's has taken their position and made it this thing where I'm in charge. You do what I say. I was with this one organization recently, and one of the leaders said that one of their leaders will walk in some mornings and chew them out because of situations that were going on in their home and expected them to just accept it. And so whenever the person would say something to this person about the way that they treat them, they say, "Well, just deal with it." That's just too much control of using power to manipulate. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on out here. But let me dive into this because I don't feel like I'm preaching. I feel like I am right now. All right. So let me give you 3 things that people do to build toxic cultures. All right. This is different, like, because usually people come on with strategies to win, right? I'm gonna show you how you're losing. These are 3 things. And most people out here who work in this space, like myself, who consult, who train, who do these programs, and I love seeing the different organizations come to a new mode of operating after we spent several months coaching and training their leaders and their staff on team building and things like that. Because we, again, not teamwork, but team building. All right. And so the first thing that causes a toxic culture is they never work on building the team. Let's say you start a new company, or you create a new division, or you create a new mode of operation within your organization, and then what you do is you you just say, "I need to hire 100 people." All right. So what do? You go to Indeed.com, you go to ZipRecruiter, local workforce agency. You put all these job you know opportunities out there. You start collecting resumes and you start interviewing people. And the immediate goal is, I need to fill these positions. And so what do people do? They hire, they hire, they hire, they hire, they hire. They give job assignments, and then they say, go to work. Never once considering the fact that you're bringing all these people in from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different ideologies, different cultures, different ways of viewing things, but saying, let's come together and work. That is a recipe for disaster. Because, see, we have this big idea in front of us, be it, our business and putting our positioning in our business to do certain things, right? We have all this stuff in front of us, and we're like, man, yeah, I'm going to build this multi-million-dollar business. And then 3 years later, you may have built it, but then people hate each other. They hate working there. Then you start having retention issues, and so this, I'm making the money, or in this case of an organization, we're having our organizational type things that's taking place, but the people don't even like each other. They're not even communicating with each other. They're working in silos. And so I think it's of utmost important to realize that when you're hiring or building a new organization, or if it's an organization that's been around, that's in transition, you hire, and this is important. I don't need to be the one to do it. You hire, but then you train to the culture. You even hire to the culture. Other words, I don't even want a person working for my company or organization, school district, campus, whatever, if they aren't the kind of person that fits the cultural mode of this organization. And when I'm talking about the cultural mode, I'm talking about the good culture where people are being developed, people are being led properly, people are, their voices are heard instead of being muffled because they feel like if they say anything, they're going to be penalized, which is really toxic for most organizations. And so the first thing I want to talk about is, when it comes to team building, is we just put people in these organizations We don't consider the culture. We don't consider uh, the impact that they'll have on the culture. None of that. We just hire them. The second thing that I think that's important is um, positional leadership over developed leadership. Positional leadership over developed leadership. Now, let me break this down for you. Positional leadership, let me give you an example. I was good. And again, if you have any comments, I would love to see your comments in here, and we probably maybe pop them up on our screen if we can get there. I know in StreamYard it's a little different. Sometimes the comments don't come through, but I would love to get your comments on this. So, with positional leadership is, let's say I work for a company and I was a good sales representative. I use this as an example. I'm breaking sales records like crazy. I'm selling more, and people love me, man. They, oh, this guy is great. This gal is great. Whatever I'm going to do, but I got to promote him because I'm not going to keep him. So, we got to give him a new position. So now we're going to make you a district sales manager. Okay. And you get in there and you stink the place up. Because why? I was a great sales representative. That don't make me a great leader of people. Or I may have the potential to be a great leader, but you never trained me. You just sent me up there and said, hey, you were a great salesperson. Go on up there and be a great sales manager. Dealing with people is different than dealing with customers. So that's positional leadership that we're talking about. Now, developed leadership is that person is being mentored by another leader that's doing a good job. That person goes through a year of leadership development. That person is being surveys the people that's going to work for them to see what kind of leadership works for them. They're getting some feedback from their team. That leader's being groomed to be a leader. Now you take that great sales, using the sales analogy, then after a year of grooming, a year of being under good leadership, a year of studying, reading books, like one of my new favorite books is this book right here called Extreme Ownership by these Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. We got the names right. But they're reading stuff like that. They're studying what it takes to be a great leader. And most organizations don't do that. They hire based upon talent. And what they mean by that is you're talented at that job assignment, but are you talented at leading people? And you see my articles on post-pandemic leadership is one of the most critical things to consider. That's another reason why organizations become toxic. All right. And again, another thing is, and we talked about this briefly, is there's no real strategy for integration. Please hold on to that word, integration of core values and vision. This always amazes me. I can speak at conference after conference after conference, and I'll ask a simple question. And it's happened. I've done it in front of 2,000 people, 3,000 people, or 50 people, or 20 people. What's your organization's mission? What are your core values? 90% of the people have no idea. You know why? We created these values. We've created this vision, but we haven't integrated it. What that means is we have not taken the time to train our people, to train our staff, to go through a process of talking about the vision. What is it looking like in a particular position? What does it look like in a department? Are we honoring people by these, rewarding people by these, monthly type of activities around vision and mission? And not only that, modeling the behavior that we expect. You see, what the coach is talking about here is a confluence. I'm talking about a confluence of team building, but I'm also talking about development of individuals. Because if not, this is how toxic cultures are built. And you wonder why people don't want to go to work. You wonder why people don't want to be a part of this team. You wonder why people just simply say, forget it. I don't want anything to do with any of this. And they walk away. And so the great resignation was more about people's feelings for working for certain places than it was the Times. The Times only highlighted it. and made people think more about it. But then, but for a lot of folks that I know I've talked to, I just can't do it anymore. I've been lying to myself for years thinking this place was okay, and it's really not. It's making me sick. I'm not feeling well here. I don't get any respect here. That's not team building, that's toxicity. And so I'm going to come back and share some more on this, but I want to lay a foundation because a lot of times we say we need to fix this culture, we need to fix this. Um, but I'm showing you how toxic cultures come about. All right. We never work on building. All right. We talk about teamwork, but not team building, because team building and teamwork are two things. You only can do teamwork when you build a team that's effective. All right. And then, another one is, positional leadership over developed leadership. Positional leadership is just you're good at something, but you're terrible at leading people. You right. And so developed leadership is I may have the potential to develop people, but I need somebody to work with me, coach me mentally, model me, things like that for me. And then no real strategy for vision and mission integration. These three things I just shared with you, you should be working on these all the time. This doesn't end. You know what I mean? We have some customers that keep using us over and over again because they know they're constantly working on it. And then some that want you to come in and do a one-time deal and think it's just going to make things happen. And I'll say to them, I said, I don't mind it. I don't mind doing team building, do a teamwork training if you have a team that's already assembled that understands this. But if not, you can't bring me in and think I'm going to fix something that's broken with a one-time training. That don't work that way. You really need to build and work on this stuff and then put systems in place for ongoing coaching and development and integration in order for your team to become a real team and your culture not to be toxic. So I'll leave you with that. If you have any questions, I always tell people if you want to debrief, I mean, I don't charge for debriefs. We just talk about your teams and hit me up at my website, coachdspeaks.com. Inbox me here at LinkedIn, and I'll have a conversation with you about your team and if you're having some challenges, because I realize that sometimes you need an outside person looking in to show you things that people just don't see because they're in the culture. It's kind of like this old quote that says, "I can't see the picture when I'm in the frame." So you need somebody that look at this from a different perspective and help you to piece this together. Because a lot of us start with good intentions, but we don't realize when you have people coming from so many walks of life and put them into one facility, unless you're developing, that's a recipe for disaster. Because it's hard for people to understand other folks. And then that's like part of the other challenges we see with all the conversations today, the times we live in. You got to build your teams and you got to do whatever it takes to make sure you don't have a toxic culture. Because what in the world does all the success in the world mean if people are not even feeling good about it? You want folks to grow with you, feel good about their experiences, and as a result, then you can start saying we can do teamwork because we now position as a real team. So let's not allow these organizations to remain toxic, these businesses to remain toxic. Let's make some investment into building a team. Then you can do teamwork training and it makes sense. But if not, you just waste the money on teamwork training. Take care now.